Good evening from the White House. I'm Kelly Wright. Thanks for joining me as we spend this next hour together. And I do sincerely hope that you're safe, that you're well, taking care of yourself and your family because you matter. Speaking of families, that leads me to my opening observations. In the midst of this COVID-19 pandemic, we've seen families go through a lot in terms of their health, in terms of their wealth. And certainly this pandemic has disrupted our economy. Well, what is the White House doing about it? One of the things beyond the PPP programs that we talk about, one of the things beyond the President's executive order to help stimulate the economy is the Opportunity Zone initiative. And that's why we're here, to find out how the Opportunity Zones, in their way, has been helping people provide help to urban areas that have been blighted, dilapidated, marginalized, overlooked, as well as rural areas that have been forgotten. There's a lot of poverty in America. The Opportunity Zones was designed to create some effort, some incentive to stop the poverty before it continues to spread. And so we're here to talk about that. We'll be talking to Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Dr. Ben Carson. In addition to that, we'll be talking to the Director of the White House Initiative on Opportunity Zones and Revitalization, Scott Turner. They'll join me to talk about how the program is going and what impact it's having on Americans in this day and age in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic. And those are my opening observations. And now, my interview with Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Ben Carson. Secretary Carson, how do Opportunity Zones help you with your overall mission for housing and urban development? What impact does it have?
Well, you know, I'm glad you asked that question because there's so many people who are saying this is only for the wealthy. It's a special program for them. What a bunch of crap. You know, when the program was designed, the whole idea was to get unrealized capital gains invested into the areas that were economically deprived. And it was envisioned that over the course of about 10 years, $100 billion would be invested. Well, the Council of Economic Advisors report released today shows that already $75 billion has been committed in only 2 years. And all kinds of projects. I advise people to go to opportunityzones.gov. Best Practices Report, which was recently submitted to the President, shows projects all over the country. For instance, in Phoenix, Arizona, you know, a convalescent center that was boarded up and neglected being reopened as a result of a $22 million investment through an opportunity fund to make it into a center for people with behavioral disturbances. Provides a lot of high-paying jobs, but gets a lot of those people off the street to a place where they can get the kind of help that will allow them to be reintegrated into society. In Wilmington, Delaware, you know, a vertical farm where people coming out of prison can get employment, cut down their recidivism rates. You know, in St. Louis, Missouri, an old foundry has become the nidus for revitalization of the whole area with workforce housing, grocery stores, entertainment. And those are the things that are happening all around. Also, the CEA report predicts that 1 million people are going to be lifted out of poverty as a result of these investments already, and there'll be more investments to go. And the poverty rate in the Opportunity Zones decreased by 11%. The housing values, the property values, immediately go up by 1.1%. That's $11 billion more of wealth for people who live in those areas. So, you know, for people to say this is only helping the rich, they have no idea what they're talking about. They're just reading their talking points that are supposed to denigrate anything that's going on.
Yeah, and you know, in the midst of our COVID-19 pandemic, you know how much of a disruption this played on our economy.
Yes.
And how it adversely and disproportionately impacted Black Americans, Native Americans, Brown Americans, people of color.
No question.
The Opportunity Zones, so many businesses have gone under or struggling.
Right.
Opportunity Zones getting into Black neighborhoods, brown neighborhoods, what would that do?
Well, it already has helped, but obviously the President asked the Opportunity and Revitalization Council to focus special attention on the communities that you just talked about because they were having such high morbidity and mortality associated with COVID-19 pandemic. And we decided not only to look at the comorbidities of hypertension and diabetes and asthma and obesity and all those things, but to look at the next layer underneath those. Why are those things more prevalent in those communities, and address them at that level? So that means special attention to housing. It means special attention to nutrition, which is frequently very difficult to get in some of those communities. It means long-term health care. Most importantly, it means really paying special attention to education. Why do I say that? Because it doesn't matter where you're born. You can be in the worst ghetto, the most remote farm in Appalachia. You get a good education, you're not going to have all these problems. You're going to work your way right up through the system. And we need to begin to emphasize that can-do attitude more than the attitude of you're a victim and that person's causing you problems.
You know, racially, of course, we are in a heated division going on in our country right now. How do opportunity zones serve a purpose in healing that divide?
Well, you know, I think it comes down to us individually. We all have a sphere of influence, and it's very important that communities work together within their community to determine how they're going to address those issues, rather than waiting for the federal government to impose anything upon them. And I think that's the difference between our country and many other countries where the federal government is the central agency. They're government-centric. We are people-centric. We're supposed to be of, for, and by the people. And when we recognize the responsibility that we have each in our own sphere of influence, we don't have to listen to the purveyors of division and hatred which are holding sway. And we don't have to be cowardly. We don't have to cower in the corner and hope that no one calls us a name. We can just focus on what the problem is and work with our neighbors to solve it.
Before I let you go, you and I have known each other for a number of years, and I've always known you to be a man who's not shy about your faith. In fact, your faith has helped you through so many things growing up in Detroit, becoming the successful doctor and surgeon that you became. Tell me what faith can do for our nation.
Well, you know, when we think about it, one nation under God, indivisible, that's what it can do. It can help us to be united with liberty. It can help us to be free, not thinking that somebody else is holding us down. And justice, it can teach us to be fair, you know, to treat others the way that we want to be treated. These are principles that we used to be proud of and that we used to teach people. And I think if we abandon those, they will be replaced with something else, and I guarantee you it won't be as good.
And your message to young Americans, particularly?
My message to young Americans is, you know, we live in a country that is a great land of opportunity, freedom and justice, and it has to do a lot with our Judeo-Christian values, with the fact that we care about each other. Do not allow yourself to be swayed by the purveyors of hatred, because that never leads to a good place.
My thanks again to Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, Ben Carson. When we return from the break, I'll be talking to Scott Turner, the director of the White House Initiative on Opportunity Zones and Revitalization. That's next. Welcome back to the program. Joining me now is the head of the White House Initiative on Opportunity Zones and Revitalization, Scott Turner. Scott, it's good to see you as always. Tell me what's happening with the Opportunity Zone and the impact that it can have on communities.
Yes, sir. Well, and it's great to be with you again. The CEA, Council of Economic Advisors, today released their report. That is the data and marketing analysis of the Opportunity Zone initiative. And as you'll see in the report, $75 billion of private investment has been dedicated and invested inside of opportunity zones in our country. And so I'm elated and very humbled by that, because that's the real data that we need to say that this initiative is impacting the areas that it was meant to impact. And so that's very exciting news today for our country. You know, poverty is being reduced in opportunity zones. Over 1 million people being lifted out of poverty. Wealth creation is taking place inside of opportunity zone. Job creation new businesses, and this was the spirit of this law, the economic development, but also the community standpoint where people now are being inspired and they have hope because they have new jobs, they have new businesses, new housing, and this is not, as you know, a government program. This is a privately led, locally led deal. And so I'm really excited today for this good news.
That is exciting to take 1 million people out of poverty and put them to work. Now you've got workforce development.
Yes, that's
revitalization.
Right. That's it.
And then it's hitting those communities that have been marginalized and forgotten.
Right.
And a lot of people have turned their backs on them.
Right.
So what does it mean to you personally to actually see this come to fruition?
You know, it makes my heart glad because I've been to some of our nation's most poverty-stricken areas, and I've seen the decay, I've seen the blight, you know, I've seen the dilapidation, I've seen the downtowns that are boarded up, I've seen the inner cities and the rural communities and the tribal communities that were once thriving, but now have been just shut down. But then when I go back to some of these places, or I read the reports and I see that these strategies are being implemented and that buildings are being repurposed, new businesses are being started, people that didn't have a job are now working. First-time business owners like in Cleveland and Coatesville and other places are now business owners and in hiring people. Man, that makes my heart glad because that's America. You know, a lot of skill sets in these places, but for a time, decades, no investment, no port of entry. Like my buddy Jerron Smith likes to say, a lot of skill set, but lack of ports of entry. And now we have a port of entry with the Opportunity Zone and private people investing in places whereby they never would have come to invest. But now the light is being shined. And so I'm really happy.
And in the midst of COVID-19, how is that impacting the Opportunity Zones?
Right, great question, Kelly. So because of COVID, our travel was restricted. Prior to COVID, I had been to, like I said, 65 cities and traveling around the country, urban, tribal, and rural. When COVID hit, what stopped was the travel, but the mission remained. The strategies remained. It was virtual now. We were on the phone now. And people in America, investors, developers, entrepreneurs, community leaders have not stopped. And I think that speaks a lot to the character of our nation and to the character of people, that though the pandemic hit, the mission remained, the heart remained, the spirit of this council and law remained. And because of it, I believe coming out of COVID, it'll be tremendously successful. And you know, I speak to Opportunity Zone businesses now during COVID that are still moving. You know, it's a slower pace, it's a different type of pace, but they have not stopped. And so it's a remarkable thing, but it's also very encouraging.
And as you know, racially, we're in a divided country right now. What help do opportunities provide in healing the racial divide?
Well, you know, I tell people, get involved. Black, white, brown, red, Democrat, Republican. Poverty doesn't care. Poverty doesn't care what party you're in. It doesn't care what neighborhood you come from, because poverty affects all of us, either directly or indirectly. But one thing about this Opportunity Zone initiative is that it brings people together, because we want to eradicate poverty by any means necessary, and that takes all of us. It takes Democrat, Republican, black, white, brown, all of us to come together. And that's what I've seen across our country. You know, prior to COVID, as people coming together, man, and say, you know what, this transcends politics and color and ethnicity. And when you do that, great fruit comes about. And so my advice, or my cry and a call to action to the American people is, let's join together and eradicate poverty together. Let's create business together. Let's create jobs together, because it affects all of us one way or another.
Got to do it now.
Yes, sir.
Got to. Welcome back to the program. So we've been talking a lot about opportunity zones with Secretary of HUD, Ben Carson, as well as the director of the White House Initiative on Opportunity Zones and Revitalization, Scott Turner. So now I want to talk to a couple of business owners who are actually taking advantage of the opportunity zones. In fact, to the tune of $1.54 million. Let me repeat that, $1.54 million in performance based incentives approved to expand Black business spearheaded by the Greenleaf actor and his wife to create workforce and revitalize communities. I'm talking none other than Julian Bertano and his wife, Kari. They are the CEOs of the Bertano Group, and they have a film company operating out of High Point, and the High Point City Council awarded the $1.5 million incentive package to begin work on a complex of studios and production offices. So they're here to talk to us about that. And it's good to have you back on the show, first of all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you,
for
Kelly.
having us.
Yes, thank you, Kelly. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and Julian and Kari, what you're doing is really phenomenal, but I'm only scratching the surface because I'm just reading the press release about what you're doing. This took a lot of hard work. Tell me about how you got involved in the Opportunity Zone, which is given out by or at least was created by the Trump administration.
Oh, absolutely. Oh my goodness, we can't say enough about it. We, like we said before in our last meeting, we started out just working with the communities, working with local creatives, working with local workforce development boards and things like that. And it just spurred from there. We've been able to engage the community in the right ways, engage the local government, participate in some meetings, some roundtables, some summits regarding the Opportunity Zone initiative. And it just really forged us into the space. We've worked with the local economic development board as well as the Downtown Initiative group, and they've been very supportive of us in High Point, North Carolina, and just connecting us with the right agencies. And it really allowed us to put together a masterful plan, which we're grateful for, just being able to have this time to do so, especially amidst the pandemic and all of this unrest that has been going on. And so we're just really happy about it all.
Oh yeah, definitely. Being in the space that we've been in, specifically in workforce development, it just showed us a lot of the needs that are needed out there for people, and a lot of the programming that needs to kind of find a connection in the center point, being able to bring these resources with the people who actually need them. So, a lot of places are in a situation of having food deserts or being in Black situations where there's no employment and there's actually no access for them. So they need the training, they need the things that the OZ Zone kind of implements with its programs and its policies, making it so that you have to penetrate those communities, you have to actually identify and create change. So one of the things that we definitely want to make sure that we do and implement is that very thing, is being able to reach the communities that these OZ Zones are in.
Wow, that's fantastic. So what will this look like as you begin to complete the project and implement it? How will it impact your community in High Point? Because I know you have plans to spread the vision to other cities, but how will it impact, in particular, the Black community there and help them grow?
Well, starting out by my husband and I just being a Black business, for one, representation is key. To actually be able to see somebody that looks like you, that's something that's kind of needed. You need to be able to feel like you can talk to that person and can relate to the actual needs you have. Some people, it's not easy to say you need help. So to be able to actually look at somebody that looks like you and you can say, I'm here for you, how may I be of aid, beyond just giving, I want to train you too. They say you could teach somebody how to, you have to teach somebody how to fish instead of just giving them the fish. So at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to do. We want to be able to not only show them what production is, show them, because they all have access to, Netflix and Hulu. We all watch shows, that's something that we all can relate to. So to actually see how you can identify yourself in that role is a huge thing that's missing, and something that we want to definitely provide to our people. So to us, it starts with training, it starts with education, it starts with actually showing them and letting them know that, one, this program is here. There's actual access to different things that they can take advantage of to actually, help them do better out there. And we just want to be change agents, really.
Stay with me on this other side of the brick. We'll talk about what this is going to look like as you become change agents and make a transformation in High Point and then taking it on to other cities. I'm talking to Julian and Kari Bertano. We'll be back with more right after the break. Welcome back to the program. So I've been talking about a lot about opportunity zones with, of course, the Secretary of HUD, Ben Carson, and Scott Turner. And with me now is Julian and Kari Brittano. And some of you may recognize Julian because Julian was an actor on Greenleaf. And Julian, you have a lot of films to your credit, and you're still doing a lot of acting. But you and your wife, you have really gone after this opportunity zone with so much zeal and passion. What motivated you?
I mean, lack. Just watching communities go through that lack of not having resources, not having capital, not having opportunity, nor the education to understand what is going on. So when most people hear opportunity zones, first thing a lot of people tend to think is gentrification, but they think of it in a negative way. They don't look at it in the way that they ought to, which is, yes, we do need to take some things that were old and renew them and revitalize them to make them, bring them up to par, bring it up to snuff. But in order to do that, you have to understand how to posture and position yourself to be able to take advantage of the gentrification. So that way, people that reflect us are not left out of the conversation, nor the function of what's going on in their cities. And in High Point specifically, which is a city known for manufacturing and the days of old, even though we know that with furniture making, that has a lot of that has moved overseas and whatnot. So there's a lot of people in the communities that are sitting maybe jobless. I mean, especially now because of the pandemic, because of the way things have been, a lot of unemployment, high unemployment right now throughout the country. And it really impacts these communities, and people need new skill sets. They need transferable skill sets. So that way, even if it's not in film and production, they can still utilize these same skill sets to be able to supply the workforce that's needed and to be sustainable at the end of the day, to make an income and make a difference in their communities.
A livable income.
Correct.
To actually be able to sustain yourself,
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I like that Kari breaks it down, a livable income.
Yes.
Yes. Because that matters, that's a disparity that we face. It's such, especially generationally, a lot of people don't have the knowledge of, opening a business or how to even go about those practices. So it's not only just, teaching someone the skill of work. You need to teach somebody the skill of being self-sufficient, and that can be entrepreneurship, that can be learning the skill to work for someone. It can be in so many different forms. There's so many different ways people are earning incomes, and it's a lot of times in the creative space. So why not show them how to actually make an impact while doing it?
Yeah, North Carolina has been known for making a lot of films. You could have taken this anywhere. You could have gone to Atlanta, but you're right there in North Carolina, which is still producing a lot of films. And right there in High Point, you have an opportunity now to take your creativity and mirror it with your passion for business and workforce development, and bring in a lot of creative people with the HBCUs that are located nearby, all of that talent coming through. So I see this as being a win-win for High Point in the state of North Carolina and for yourselves. Where do you see this going ultimately? I mean, I understand there at least possibly a potential of $100 million coming into this.
Correct.
I mean, are you at liberty to talk about that? I don't want to.
Well, at this time, we are reserving that comment regarding the $100 million, and because there is some things that we're finalizing regarding our footprint and what we're doing with the properties, the real estate properties and development, renovation, hard costs and things like that. So we're just finalizing some hard numbers there. However, this opportunity has definitely given us a leg in with other markets, other cities, other states that have come together and positioning their packages. And we have groups and associates that are in different markets such as Memphis, and I can name a couple: Memphis, Rochester, Baltimore, Richmond, Virginia area, Atlanta. And so these groups are basically following suit. And as we're doing it, because it is so new for everyone, it basically, you got to kind of lead by example, and that's what we're doing. We're going through all of the actions and action steps, and
Yeah, you're pioneers. Yeah, you're pioneers.
We're trying to be, at least, we don't want to put ourselves ahead
Right.
of, the cart before the horse, whichever, but we definitely are trying so, because there's so many different programs out there that a lot of people have no clue about.
Right.
The Opportunity Zone being one, but there's historic tax credits. There's other funding that you can get.
New
market tax credits.
Right.
There's so many different things that, and different ways where you could access capital, and other ways to kind of, implement different things as far as construction and working with public and private relationships.
Exactly.
That's kind of showing you that bridge of things that you really don't hear those phrases out there. So unless you put your ears to the ground and kind of do some of the research, you kind of don't know what's out there. And that's a sad point. And that's one thing that us as, minority business owners, we want to make that aware to even other businesses out there. You should know all of the things you have access to, because that is how you're going to be able to get ahead.
And from that standpoint, Kari and Julian, it doesn't matter if it's coming from a Republican or a Democrat, does it?
No, not at all. I mean, change is change. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who's in the head. You still have to focus on your home. So, despite who you vote for, or where your political, heartstrings lie, we still need to implement this change. We still need to be able to be there for one another. Democratic, Republican, black, brown, or blue, does not matter. We have to work together to be the change that we want to see.
Well, Julian, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you any more things coming up with you in terms of acting.
Oh, absolutely. I'll do this little plug right now. I actually just completed a horror feature film project. This is my first as a horror project. It's called Heir of the Witch, and that is in post-production right now. I have another project I just got sent today. Actually, someone sent for me to portray a role as a psychiatrist. So we're going to see about how that goes and whatnot. But yeah, I constantly stay doing that. I love acting. It's fruitful for me.
Yeah, it's a great profession to have. God bless you both. And Kari, what are you up to now with your individual project?
Oh, I'm involved deep into these historic credits and minority tax credits, and I'm going to school right now with the government and learning all of the things that I can access, and just being able to not only know for myself but to tell others, because at the end of the day, it's one thing to learn something and keep it to yourself. You need to give it back out there and share it with the community so we can use it.
That's right.
That's right. So I'm just learning. I'm soaking getting all my knowledge in like a sponge.
That's good. What a team. Thank you, guys. Love you both, and we'll stay in touch with each other.
Thank you. We appreciate
Thank you much.
it.
Julian and Kari Bertano, check them out at High Point, North Carolina, doing some things up big opportunity. We'll be back after this. And welcome back to the program. So as we continue to watch the developments unfolding politically this season, after all, it is a presidential year. Election politics is looming large. One person who knows a lot about that is the former mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama, Omar Neal. He joins us now. Mayor, good to have you on the program today.
Good to be with you.
Mr. Mayor, when you served in Tuskegee, leading that city, did you ever think you would someday hear a president saying that he would defund cities where Democrat mayors or Democrat leaderships of the state are operating those cities and running those cities and states as president?
Never in a million years. One is when you become president, you're president of all of the people. There are Republicans and Democrats and independents in every city. In fact, when you think about it, in defunding the city, you are defunding the police. You're defunding fire. You're defunding public works and many other things. So this whole notion of defunding the city based on political leadership is really something beyond imagination.
It's also perceived by his critics and those who are studying what's going on right now in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic that it's a distraction, if you will, that the president is doing this to distract voters from the real issue at hand. And that is, of course, coronavirus. This pandemic, as you know, is hit so many people very hard in this country, physically as well as economically. 6 million cases in the country now, and more than 186,000 deaths because of this. Do you think he's playing distraction politics?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you can't run on something positive, what you do is distract people from whatever your weaknesses are. And as you know, the coronavirus has had an implication on our economics, our social connectivity, our education systems. I mean, there is no space where the coronavirus did not infiltrate and impact. And so therefore, if you have not done well in that area, any distraction from that, one could perceive as a political benefit.
And Mayor, you know, this has hit the Black community and the Brown community and the Native American community disproportionately and very, very hard by the sheer numbers of the fact that most of us are essential workers. So, you know, why not address that if you're the president of the United States and say we've got to take care of our people rather than distracting our people with apparently more divisive politics?
Well, you know, right now, I mean, I think the playbook has already been set out and laid forth, which is divide and conquer, is the strategy that the president has set forth, and I think he's going to stay there. That racial divide to pander to a significant portion of his base or his base is where he's going to stay. The point of the matter is, because there has been disparate treatment with African Americans the whole time prior to COVID-19, the impact on us is greater. There's an old adage that says that when America catches a cold, that means that the African American community has pneumonia. And that's exactly what people are seeing, is that our community are disproportionately impacted, not just based on the fact that we're dying at greater rates, but even with, as you mentioned, Kelly, we are essential workers that have been not seen as essential in terms of our own health and our own well-being.
And Mr. Mayor, I know you're here to talk about a good way of getting out the vote. Before we do that, I want to ask you, since we've talked about President Trump, I've got to talk about his challenger, which is former Vice President Joe Biden. Yesterday, the former vice president announced that he would be going to Kenosha today, and he stated that he wanted to bring healing to that community. Is he sending the right message about healing and looking at violence and denouncing it on all sides?
Well, you know, if I were advising him, although I'm not, I would caution him not to, or advise him not to go. He's already made contact with Jacob Blake's family, and they know that he is concerned about them. In the whole notion of just going for to be present, I don't know if that's for any political benefit. The point of the matter is, we're in the middle of a COVID-19 virus, a pandemic. There's healing that community is trying to pursue. And when you interfere, or when you come in with politics, that can have a adverse effect on the healing process. And so, but because of him going with not a spectacle, but going just to offer his support to the community, given that, I think it's okay that he do that, since that's already a foregone conclusion.
I totally understand, sir. I totally understand your impressions of what he's doing. And I'm talking to Omar Neal, the former mayor of Tallahassee. Tallahassee, Tuskegee. I've got Black News Channel on my mind.
Absolutely.
Forgive my faux pas. The former mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama. How could I forget that? We'll be back with more to talk about his unique way of getting out the vote. Back with more right after this. Welcome back to the program. So I'm still having a little chuckle there about what I was stating about Omar Neal, the former mayor of Tuskegee, not Tallahassee. That's John Marks, who of course is part of our Black News
Absolutely.
channel. Love John Marks, a mutual friend
Dear
of
friend of
ours.
mine. Absolutely.
But Mr. Mayor, let me ask you, what has it been like watching the distractions going on, and what concerns have you had about people getting out the vote, whether they vote Democrat or Republican, but getting out the vote?
Yeah, that's my focus at this juncture, Kelly. You know, when you are watching television, and most people are fixated on the news now with all of the things that's happening there, hunkered down in their homes. A lot of times we become political pundits, and we are doing day trading politically, whether or not the polls are up or down, and all of that, and it's creating an anxiety for our country. And that's why I came up with this notion. I said, let's just simplify this thing. And the concept, Kelly, is just vote and remove all doubt. And it's not a partisan concept. It's a concept because we're at a inflection point in our society where we will define America. This particular election will truly define America, not on what America was, not on what America is, but what America want to be, that this more perfect union that we espouse, right? And so if everyone votes, then we can see clearly what America is and who America is to America and to the world. And so the concept is vote and remove all doubt. Get rid of the clutter. Don't talk about or focus on polls, because we know Hillary Clinton led the polls most of the time, if not all of the time, and we see she's not President Hillary Clinton. So don't focus on polls, focus on voting and then removing all doubt. I think that this country deserves to know that definitively who won. And that requires that every American that is eligible to vote, that you get out and vote.
And sir, when are you launching your campaign to get this done?
Launched it just yesterday on my show, but this is my first public launching is on your show, Kelly.
Oh,
and
thank you.
So we're launching it right now. Vote and remove all doubt is being launched on Kelly Wright show.
Oh, I appreciate you, sir. And should we be in contact with you in a way? Can we contact you to really understand how we can get behind what you're doing?
Absolutely. You can contact me at the www.yougotthepower.com, or you can go to my Facebook page, Omar Neal, and contact me there, or you can give me a call at 334-328-6627, and we can give you more information.
Sir, I appreciate you and your leadership, and it's a pleasure to have you on this program to break some news about your special campaign. And I'm going to have you say it one more time so people remember.
Vote and remove all doubt.
I love it. Vote and remove all doubt.
Focus.
Okay.
That's the focus.
Omar Neal, former mayor of Tuskegee, Alabama. We're going to have him back on next week so we can talk about that beautiful place, Tuskegee, and all of the rich history that it has and the great contributions that it's made to America and the world. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Kelly.
We'll be back with more after this. And welcome back. Before I leave you tonight, my final word. I want to thank all of the guests who appeared on tonight's program, and I especially want to thank each and every one of you. Here's something we should think about with regard to opportunity zones. In the midst of the politics that's going on right now, the RNC happening this week, the DNC which took place last week, I think Scott Turner said it best. Poverty doesn't know if you're black or white, Republican or Democrat. poverty just knows how it can destroy you. So hopefully all of us can be righted and ignited and united to keep spreading knowledge, not fear, and love, freedom, and peace, to always do the right thing. At the White House, I'm Kelly Wright. Thank you. Good night.
Take a look around, I'll tell you what I see. I see a world filled with war and poverty. Take a look around, I'll tell you what I see. I see a world filled with pain and misery. Take a look around, I'll tell you what I see. I see a world filled with race and bigotry. Take a look around, I'll tell you what I see. I see a world filled with hate and hostility. So in the streets we cry, 'cause our babies die from all the guns and the violence. And we lift our hands and raise our demands. But the violence is not silence. Oh Lord, we need you. We need you right now, Lord. Oh Lord, we need you. We need you right now, Lord. Oh Lord, we need you. We need you right now, Lord. We need you right now. Oh God, we need you right now. I'll tell you what I see. I see God coming back to save humanity. Take a look around. I'll tell you what I see. Christ stepping in to stop our insanity. Yeah. I've taken a look around and I'll tell you what I see. Our children safe because peace abounds. I've taken a look around and I'll tell you what I see. Mankind standing on common ground. So on my knees I pray for that better day. Oh God, please show us the way. Let your peace abound.